Alright guys, so I have two HPA engines, two totally different systems. This one is sort of the Mark 1 that I basically immediately abandoned. It's sort of modeled after how a Rapid Fire 20 works, and this is, I'm pretty sure, how HPA Airsoft works, but it doesn't really work too well for nerf if you're controlling it with a standard MJ VO3. The benefit about this is a VO3, or excuse me, this one's controlled with a MJV3, so it's the normally closed variety, I believe, and this actually fires from an open bolt, which is nice, but it consumes quite a bit of air, and you need to run it at like a very high PSI for it to get even semi acceptable NIC performance. But we'll dive into this first, and then we'll check this out. This is the final version of my design, and I really can't take credit for this. This idea, the concept of this, anyway, like I don't share any dimensions with Spectre, but full credit goes to him for the concept of this. He's basically taken, which is very smart, taken a QEV valve and combined it with a pneumatic piston, which is smart. He was the first one to do that, but it's just a QEV. It's nothing revolutionary, and I just borrowed that idea. And I really don't know how big his is, if they share any dimensions. I'm sure his is metric, but this is imperial. But anyways, we'll go over that second. And this is like sort of a version 2.1. The version 2 is actually somewhere else right now, and you will see that in an upcoming video. But anyway, we'll dive into this. Since this is just the first prototype, I never really put any wrench flats on it. It's sort of unfinished. It was sort of just proof of concept. I should have probably taken the pusher off. It's got an aluminum pusher, which is okay, but if you don't have a really nice machine surface here, it can sort of mess up your mags. So plastic pusher is definitely better. And then we'll take off the front, and you need enormous springs in this for it to work properly as well. That's another thing I don't like. Bronze bushing in the front, or bronze bearing, whatever you want to call it, and then some breathing holes. Huge spring. It probably would need an even bigger spring if I was continuing this sort of design, but I've abandoned it. I gotta get some channel locks or something for the back. Excuse me for a moment. Alright, anyway. Now I got just some vice grips out here. And just on a side note, these are phenomenal vice grips, these Stanley Fatmax vice grips. And I'm really mad Stanley does not sell these in Canada anymore. Just like super frustrating. I bought into them a little bit, and then I wanted to go get a full set because I like them so much. And they're gone. Totally discontinued. It's probably some of the nicest locking pliers I've ever used. But anyway, probably don't care about locking pliers, because why would you? I don't really care either. So anyways, here's the stem, and this is a solid core stem. There's no hole, so the air comes through here and then comes out the back when you pull the trigger, and it's just like drilled on an angle to the common chamber in the back. And this is like a real pain in the butt to machine. It's hard to see in there. I don't know if you can see, but anyway, yeah, see my hand in there. So there's a common chamber that all the air goes into, and then it basically just pours out of these holes. Anyway, so here's the ram. Oh, there's the ram. And so how this works is you pull the trigger, air gets forced out of these holes, moving the piston forward, which now chambers a dart, and then at the very end, like as you're chambering the dart, as soon as the pusher basically is seated into the barrel, this O-ring here moves from the tight section to a loose section in the back, if you can see, and this dumps the reservoir of air in your cylinder out the front of the barrel. And this for this to fire correctly, it's very important to have a strong spring. If you don't have a strong spring, the pressure buildup in here is not enough, and it just doesn't fire correctly. So this is a very good design for a high rate of fire blaster. If you wanted to run like a full auto, very high rate of fire, this would be ideal. But it does consume quite a bit of air, and you need high pressure and a high spring load, and it's just sort of like not the ideal system to shoot such a large projectile as far as we would like to. This is great for shooting like BBs, like an airsoft, but it's just, I pretty much abandoned it immediately. So this is the sort of 2.1, like I said, and this has a metal pusher as well. It's a little bit marred from pliers, unfortunately. This like sort of galled, and I couldn't get it off. But anyway, I will fix that off camera at a later date. The front here is the same bushing, and these holes are just like for breathing. And this it's sort of similar. Like the cap is basically the same. This has a pretty strong spring, but it doesn't need to be as strong as the other one, because this is just to cycle it. It doesn't really have anything to do with pressure building. The ram is very, very similar. There is no loose section though. This is a consistent bore, and this is machined from billet. This is not a piece of pipe, so that's why I can run bushings in the front, because this is a known diameter, that is a machine diameter, and it can run on this oilite bronze bush here. So anyways, in the back, since this is the 2.1, it does have a wrench flat, and this is sort of where the I don't know what to call it, but this is how the blaster works. This is like the functioning area, and O-ring seal here, and this is your diaphragm, and it's very, very important to keep this all clean and lubricated with the proper lubricant. I recommend Super Lube. I can show you that actually. And it's just Super Lube silicone oil, and this is the best for this kind of thing in my opinion. And now the back here, this is also quite important. It's a little bit difficult to get out. I've just been using these needle nose pliers, but I would like to make myself a tool to do this. Because like if you're actually nerfing with this and using it often, you're going to need to disassemble this and clean it and lubricate it, probably like at least once a season, and I'd like to have the correct tools to do so. But anyways, this is what I'm calling the stem in this design. So how this design works is this goes in here. Oh, that's actually a little bit loose. I don't know why that's so loose. But anyway, this goes in there, and your diaphragm actually is being forced up against here. It's housed in this. So this is sitting in the blaster like so. So what happens is air comes in the back here, shoots this diaphragm forward, which seals on this machined surface. This center bit plugs this machined surface, and then see this part here, this sort of skirt seal looking thing, like you're all familiar with if you're an NIC nerfer. This is flexible. So now air can go around the flexible section and go into the hole here, which in turn puts air through here behind the piston, and now the piston moves forward to about here, chambering a dart, and now this is, of course, you know, it's inside here. Now this is all filled with compressed air at whatever PSI that you've set. So then when you fire, the air pressure that is coming through here behind this, holding this forward, the air pressure is now gone. This is like a back pressure tank, like the old like Hornet tanks and whatnot. But anyway, so since the pressure is now no longer behind here, there's nothing keeping this sealing the tank. So now this gets blown back by the pressure in the tank, and then all the pressure here can now be blown through these holes and now out this center hole, firing your dart. And simultaneously, since the pressure has now dropped in the tank, the spring can simultaneously push your ram back. So now your breech is open, and then when you release the trigger on the valve, air now rushes back into the tank, or into the chamber, with the diaphragm. The diaphragm gets shot forward, plugging the center hole, and goes around again, opening your breech, or closing your breech, excuse me, filling with air again, and you're ready for the next shot. And this can just keep happening over and over and over. And Spectre has a really nice animation on this if you ever want to look at it, but hopefully my explanation here is what made sense. If anybody wants to make one of these, you're more than welcome to message me at any time. I'm really not hard to find, and those of you that have found me, you all know I answer fairly quickly. I'm a nice guy. I'm happy to talk nerf anytime. I just might not answer right away because I do actually have a personal life outside of this, believe it or not. But anyway, that's pretty much how these things work. This is a superior design to this, in my opinion. This would have been great, I think, controlled electronically, or like I said, the situations like I said, and this is really ideal for BBs, but I don't think it's good for nerf. I won't really be making any more of these, and this is definitely my final iteration of this. I'm fairly happy with the way this is. It's easy to manufacture, more or less. I don't know if I'd make another one because I have one already that I'm using, and then this is a spare if I ever want to make something else. I don't think I'd want to make these for sale. It's just too much work on a manual lathe. I could never sell these at a reasonable price, and I really don't want to make blueprints that are like machine shop quality that I could hand to a machine shop and make a batch of these. It's just a lot of work, and it's a lot of like liability. Like, people don't think of that kind of stuff, but like playing with compressed air is dangerous. Like, I'm selling you this. What if it blows up? Excuse me, and you get hurt? You know, it's not really something I want to get into. Besides, like, people that I actually know, like close friends, I don't think I'd really want to sell these. It just seems like a giant headache, and I'd imagine that Spectre stopped for a pretty good reason. But anyway, this is just an aluminum tube. Hope you enjoyed. It's a little different. Usually we're talking about springers. I've always been a Springer guy, but I do enjoy this. I think I do actually like springers still. I think I like them best. But this was a nice change of pace for me, making something different. And, you know, I get to do some machine shop work, but I also get to play with Nerf, which is the main goal for this channel. And anyways, hope you're all doing well. It's nice talking to you again, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care.